Welcome back to Copper Star Precision, the channel dedicated to getting you more points at your competitive shooting matches. We have just hit a huge milestone on this channel, 10,000 subscribers. I can't thank you guys enough. I love to have, see this channel grow. I love the community we're building here. I love all the comments that I get, good, bad, indifferent. I try to respond to most of them. People have reached out to me through email, through Patreon, and we've built this relationship. And hopefully, I've helped you in your competitive shooting journey as you watch me fumble through mine. But, looking at my analytics the other day, turns out that this channel could be 4 times as large because, 75+% of you are not subscribed. So if I haven't earned your subscription yet, let me know down in the comments why not. And hopefully we continue to improve. And I don't just say that for fame and fortune and ad revenue, which pretty much does not exist for most Second Amendment, you know, channels. But the opportunities that a larger subscriber base can afford channels like mine is to partner with companies and have companies reach out, or when I reach out to companies, I can make a value proposition for saying, hey, I have this audience, they're very interested in this thing that you specialize in the shooting sports. Let's talk about it. Let's get something to review. Let's answer some questions that I get in my emails because people are interested in your product. And what was really interesting is that DNT Optics actually reached out to me, as you could probably tell from the title of this video and the thumbnail, but they sent me the 7 to 35 by 56, first focal plane scope, Japanese ED glass, 2 mil hash marks, very nice reticle, I have to say, right off the bat. Reticle's a personal preference, but I think they really got it right with this one. I know some companies are walking away from the more Christmas tree style reticle in the precision rifle sports. So, in a future iteration of this scope, it might be nice to have a different reticle, but I think for a Christmas tree style reticle, this has everything you need and nothing that you don't. But yeah, they reached out to me, and just in full disclosure, they sent me the scope for review. They basically said, hey, you have 30 days for testing and evaluation of this scope. Well, it's been about 2 months, so apologies to Lynn and Farrick over there at DNT. I've had this for a little longer than I said I agreed to, but I've been really putting it through my paces, and I've actually taken it to 2 matches and competed with it on my open division rifle in 2 NRL 22 matches. And in future videos, we're actually going to bring you match footage from those matches. It's going to be through the trigger cam, so it's not going to be exactly a representation of what the scope optical quality is, but it's going to give you a sense of, does the scope work in competition? And I think, we can do tracking tests and we can do chromatic aberration and look for, flaws and this, that, the other thing. And if you want to see those videos, and if DNT allows me to keep the scope a little longer, then I'm totally set up to do that, and we can talk about that. But really, this is going to be more of a unboxing and first impressions video, just so you know what you're getting when you purchase something like this. And it just let's put on a rifle, and as Jerry Michelik often says, shut up and shoot. Right? Go out, take it to a match, see if it works. Does it fall short in certain areas? Does it excel in certain areas? So you're going to have all that commentary on the match footage videos that are coming in the future. Again, this is more of a sort of a unboxing first impressions. But again, big thanks to Lynn and Farrick over there at DNT. Full disclosure, they sent me the scope. No money has changed hands. The opinions of this video are completely my own. There is a agreement that if I do end up publishing videos, I have the opportunity to buy the scope they sent me for a discounted price, which I probably will do. So if that tells you anything about what I feel about this scope, but there's been no promises of anything, and I'm going to be as fair and unbiased as possible when it comes to this optic because, I know you guys work hard for your money, and people are dealing with budgets, and this can be an expensive sport. So if you want to get into it, I think some of these lower priced scopes that are kind of set to a price point, they're not perfect by any means, but they allow people the opportunity to participate in these sports without having to spend astronomical amounts of money. And one really thing that interested me with working with DNT was that they were extremely forthcoming, because I asked them, I was like, well, this scope's been out for a little while. There have been countless videos describing this, comparing it to the Arkin EP5, which is probably the same optical formula. We have Ray over at X-Ring, huge YouTube channel, comparing the two. That's a great video. Josh from Pursuit of Accuracy, a much bigger channel than mine, has reviewed this scope. And even some smaller YouTubers who you might not have heard of. You should definitely go check out this channel called Shoot More. He's got like less than 2,000 subscribers, but he's a phenomenal competitor in the rimfire space. I think he shoots a Rimex. I think he's down in Texas. He's great. Video production quality is fantastic. He's done a review of this scope. I would definitely go check him out. And then, of course, if you haven't heard of he does very intricate optical reviews of different optical systems. He's done a comparison between this and the Arkin as well. So I asked them, I was like, well, what can I offer? And they said, well, you're a competitor. you know, people go and they go shoot at static targets and, all that kind of stuff. They shoot paper, they do tracking tests. What is it like to compete with the scope? So we're going to unbox the scope today, kind of talk about what you get, first impressions. Stick around to the end of the video because we're going to talk about sort of my final thoughts after having competed with it. And then we're going to bring you 2 videos of match footage from the July and August NRL 22 Courses of Fire, where I used this scope to great success. And yeah, it's a fantastic little scope. And let's just head over to the bench and see what it's all about.
All right, here it is, DNT Optics, the one. So let's see if this is the one scope to rule them all, so to speak. Some information on the box here, different features of the scope. We'll dive into those a little bit later. Looks like we have a battery here, CR2032. It's probably for our illuminated reticle. We've got some literature, owner's manual. Consult that if we need to reset the zero stop. Looks like we got a lens cleaning cloth, always a nice touch. And the scope itself, really nicely packaged. We've got these bikini scope cap covers. And in here we have a included sunshade, which is always nice. And there's probably something in the box I forgot. Yep, dropped it on the ground. We have a little tool, little Allen key that's actually Torx, and 2 screws and a little tiny throw lever. All right, since we have the throw lever, might as well get that installed. Let's see. Does it look like it can go both ways? Probably. Not sure which way it's supposed to go. We'll put it that way. But that will be simple enough. We just put our 2 screws in. I'm going to actually put them in here first. And then get them lined up. It's right near the 16 power position. There's only one position this can go. Just get both of those started. And a quick snug down. I'm sure these don't have to be crazy tight. Just put just the slightest bit of torque on there until they bottom out like that. And now we have a nice little throw lever. Without the throw lever, magnification turns pretty smooth, but it's nice just having that little extra leverage. 16 being the top there, it's actually kind of nice because that's usually where I run most of my competition scopes, between 16 and 20. So really in the range 16 to and up. So there's about a quarter turn from 16 to 35 power, which is the max. And let's see, there's almost 180 degrees between the lowest magnification of 7 and 35. So 7 to 35 by 56, we have a note on here that says maximum torque for scope rings is 18 inch-pounds, so we'll make sure to adhere to that. What else we got? We've got a battery cap, looks like, yep, for our illuminated dial, which has 6 positions off in between. We have parallax knob here, very smooth. I don't hear any grit or grime or grinding like that. Parallax down to 25 yards, markings for 30, 40, 50, 100, 2, 3, and 500, and infinity. So we're going to be living in this range here. So from here, that's a quarter turn, that's a half turn. So about a half turn between 25 and 100. Pretty nice knurled texturing here. Very easy to manipulate. Same knurled texturing and design language on the windage turrets and the elevation turrets. Clicks feel very nice, very smooth. These are some excellent feeling turrets. Similar feel on the windage. What is interesting about the windage is normally a lot of manufacturers put their 0 windage indicator here, but this is actually at a 45-degree angle towards the shooter. So if you're looking over the scope as you would, looking at your elevation turret, you actually can see out of your periphery here that 0 mark to make sure that your windage did not get bumped We do not have any locking turrets, but that's okay. We do have a zero stop system, which we'll investigate here shortly. But yeah, pretty hefty scope. Does have that little knob here on the bottom, so it can make scope leveling, depending on what method you use, a little difficult if you go off the bottom. But the top is nice and flat if you do like to put your level on the top to level the scope. Other than that, looks very good. Let's take a look at this zero stop system, how this operates. So right now, it doesn't look like there's a zero stop engaged whatsoever. So your classic kind of 3 prongs and then 2 different colored screws. It's nice that they made those different color. Those are red. So looks like this is going to be your zero stop post, and then this is probably a set screw that is going to hold this top one into place. But let's take a look at some of the internals here. We're going to loosen the 3 screws on the side. You don't have to shouldn't have to take these all the way out, just half to a full turn out, and see, yep, comes right off. So let's take a look at that internal system. So yeah, that top screw comes down, and let's see what it interacts with here. So it's going to interact with this part here. So if you look just from the side, there's that raised portion there. So what's going to happen is that turret screw is going to come down to here, and then it's going to stop and hit that, and that becomes your zero stop. What is interesting is the zero stop is lined up with 0. I mean, that kind of makes sense. But a lot of people, and myself included, I like to set my zero stop at about negative 0.5 mils. And the reason for that is I zero at 50 yards. And if you have a 35-yard target or something closer than 50 yards, typically you're dialing down 1 or 2 tenths. But if I do that, I'm actually going to pass that zero stop, and that's not going to work. So really the zero stop, as you can see, if you can see right about there, right, it is designed to only be a true zero stop. Now you don't have to use it. You don't have to engage the zero stop, but if you do want to set your zero for something other than 0, you're not going to be able to do that. It's a true zero stop. So just a little interesting point. So I might leave the zero stop disengaged. I usually don't run one anyway, unless I can run one that lets me go down half a mil, just for those close near engagement targets. But other than that, pretty simple system. Hard stop here on that screw with the set screw, and your typical sort of 3 set screw setup that will grip onto this brass piece here. Again, you don't want to over tighten those at all. You just want to make sure that they have even pressure and that they are able to grip and actually turn, which will in turn change your reticle within the scope. So other than that, pretty hefty solid scope. Supposed to have Japanese ED glass, and yeah, really nice looking, pretty hefty. But what the real test will be is going to be getting this on the rifle, so I'm going to do that next.
All right, so now that you have a basic idea of what you get in the box, kind of the feature set of the scope, let's talk about who this scope is for. Now, again, this scope is, primarily for long range shooting. It has big shoes to fill, being called the one, as if it's the one scope that can do it all. And it's rated for 50 BMG, Japanese ED glass, all that great stuff. But then how does it perform, a little bit more, closer targets, but more precision targets, perhaps, smaller targets in the rimfire space? Like I said, we're bringing you match footage in the next 2 videos of me using this scope with great success. And really, I mean, the scope is great. Now that I have a chance to compete with it, those turrets for this price point, I mean, just absolutely dialed in, fantastic. What's really interesting is the scope caps are using these Torx heads, so it's not like a toolless system. So you have your zero stop, which I kind of described, which I end up not using because we have to dial down when we're zeroed for 50. And they use these Torx screws instead of Allen head screws, which I think is fantastic. However, these are T9. I wish they were T10 because I think most people's kits have a T10 or maybe even a T8. T9 is a very weird size. So I actually have this little WIA little bit set, screwdriver bit set, which is fantastic. And it does have a T9 in here. So if you do lose that little Torx L key, this is not like a toolless system. So if that's something that, you always fiddle with your scopes, and, when it comes to the rimfire space, right? When it comes to rimfire, if you're traveling or even different atmospherics, you might have a tenth or two zero shift, from match to match, depending on your environment and the weather and the humidity that day. So it's not unusual to have a little bit of a shift. So if you're someone that has, is constantly resetting their turrets, if you lose that key, you might be out of luck. I'll put a link in the description. You can pick this up on Amazon. It's a fantastic little kit. But that's something to be aware of. It's not a toolless zero reset. Like I said, if you're a rimfire shooter and you're zeroing at 50 yards, you probably don't want to use the zero stop. So if you're someone who likes to have a zero stop, that's something to consider. I really like the windage being at this sort of like 10 o'clock position, because I look over the scope, as I do like my pre-stage checklist. I think it's a nice feature. You see that on some higher end scopes like the Zeiss scopes and stuff. It's personal preference, but I happen to like it. What would I change about this scope? I would probably just add a couple things to it, right? I would add some of this stuff right here, some turret tape. I'd have to get the right one for this scope, but adding these turret tapes so I can mark my delineations makes dialing much faster, for me anyway. And then I do like this parallax knob. I do like the knurling on the knob, but I'd probably go over to MK Machining, get one of their 3D printed, sort of extended parallax wheels. And the reason for that is, if you're using that higher magnification, your depth of field is super shallow. And when it comes to rimfire, that dirty parallax can really throw you for a loop. So, I do like to parallax for targets if I have time on the clock. So just having that ability just to quickly parallax. I think the throw lever could be maybe slightly improved. I think it's necessary because this is a very stiff magnification turret. So if you are someone who constantly dials your zoom in, you zoom out to find the target, zoom out to find the target, zoom in to engage the target. It's a little stiff, and even with this little tiny throw lever on there, um, I think an extended throw lever would be a good option to have. Always, I'm always a proponent of trying to set your magnification for your skill level and just going with that. But and depending on the stage, sometimes I'll dial in the magnification, or I'll dial out if there's a lot of targets and I need to find them quickly. But I'm usually a set the magnification before the stage starts kind of guy, so it doesn't really affect me. But if you're someone who is still messing around with the magnification, it is pretty stiff. But other than that, I mean, weight may be a con. If you're trying to balance your rifle, we talk about rifle balance a lot in this channel. It's super important. So it can be difficult to balance. I fixed that solution by using a cantilever mount, trying to get that a little bit more forward on the rifle. Even with all the weights on my rifle, it ended up balancing perfectly fine. But if you're someone who's concerned with the weight of their scope and the position of their scope, that's something to consider. iBox at higher magnifications with almost any scope is going to be very unforgiving. This is no exception. It's not terrible. It just comes down to good fundamentals. But if you're someone who struggles with finding the scope, your rifle's probably set up wrong. But those weird stages where you have to do support side shooting, you definitely want to dial back the magnification to get a better eye relief. But as far as what you get sunshade, you get bikini caps, you get everything you need. And like I said, that reticle, even though it's personal preference, I think it does everything you need to do for holdovers, for windage corrections, all that kind of stuff. But in the words of Jerry Michalik, shut up and shoot, right? So we're going to bring you match footage right after this video. So in the next couple days, expect to see match footage using this scope, DNT the one, in rimfire matches, and maybe that will help you decide whether or not you want it on your rimfire rifle, or any rifle for that matter. I mean, maybe it's a nice budget option for a centerfire build that's lacking a high magnification scope or something like that. So I think calling it the one as the one be all end all scope, again, very big shoes to fill, but I think it does a lot of things right, and very few things I would change about the scope. I think for the price point, I think it punches way above its weight class in terms of value that you get, because I think it is designed for long range and precision shooting. But probably something that is often overlooked for my audience specifically when it comes to rimfire is that this scope, although the MSRP has increased, probably due to tariffs and whatnot, and everything, prices always going up all the time. But what's interesting is for the NRL 22 season, for the 2025 to 2026 season, MSRP prices are set May 1st of the year. And back on May 1st, this scope was only MSRP of $699. Also, back on May 1st, the CZ457 MTR was only $899. I believe this is more expensive now, maybe $100 more expensive or so. And the MTR has gone over $100 more expensive. I think it's $1,000 now. So that would put you out of base division. But given the MSRPs of this scope on the first day of the season, and the MSRP of the CZ457 MTR on the first day of the season, you're under that base division limit for the NRL 22. So that's definitely something to think about if you're trying to get, a high magnification scope with really great glass, fantastic turrets, that has everything you need. It's a little heavy, but it's got everything you need, and it's going to qualify you for base division in the NRL 22. So that's something to think about. I think there actually is a really good sale going on right now. I don't know how long that sale is running. I don't have any affiliate links or anything like that, or coupon codes or anything. I don't get anything for doing these reviews. I just wanted to share this with you. And, if you're interested in the scope, you can always leave questions and comments down below. But we will get to match footage with this scope very shortly in the next few videos. And until I see you next time, as always, score more points.